What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here with a conference championship recap, and we got to start with the SEC title game in Atlanta, Georgia, in which we saw the number 3 Alabama Crimson Tide upset the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs 41-24 in an impressive performance, man, and one that's going to go down in one of Nick Saban's legacy as one of the more impressive wins, man. Listen, this was a Georgia team that almost looked unbeatable throughout the year. I mean, never allowing over 17 points, holding people to one of the lowest yardage totals in NCAA history, and way under like 270 yards. They've been the number 1 defense all year. They've run the ball down people's throats and have not even had a game within 14 points all season long. And Alabama came in and exceeded the yardage total that Georgia gives up per game in like a quarter of football. And listen, we had an absolute dominant performance by Bryce Young and the wide receivers, and this Alabama offensive line did their thing as well. So let's start with initial takeaways from the game. The first initial takeaway was Alabama's offensive line played arguably their best game of the season. And they protected Bryce Young all game long. And down the stretch, they really established themselves at the line of scrimmage. They were pushing Georgia around in the second half, and they were not allowing Georgia to get any pressure on Bryce Young. I mean, you cannot do that. That is a problem against this Alabama offense because Bryce Young is so calm, cool, collected, and his decision making is at an elite level, and he made correct decision after correct decision all game long, and really excelled in being the point guard for this Alabama offense. Takeaway number 2, man, Jameson Williams. Listen, I'm sorry, guys. This guy is the best wide receiver in the country. 7 receptions, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, and average 26.3 yards per catch. I need to do a film breakdown on it, but Georgia at times was trying to bracket Williams, which usually limits explosive plays from a wide receiver. You got that safety over the top as a safety blanket. Jameson Williams took that like slant pass and outran the safety to the corner when the safety had a damn near perfect angle. He is lightning in a bottle in a matchup nightmare, and Georgia's DBs did not have any answer for Jameson Williams. And you could tell he was so motivated to prove everybody that his ejection against Auburn really cost him his shine, and he put on an absolute show. And then, for 3, Georgia's front 7 had to play better than what they did. They didn't show the speed, the explosiveness, the domination that they showed all season long. And really, the defensive line needed to do more in terms of getting into the backfield. They consistently underperformed this weekend, and I really was expecting a better defensive showing from Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning's defense. They were not playing in Alabama's backfield. Bryce Young had way too much time to throw the ball, and also down the stretch, man, Alabama was really able to establish the running game, which ultimately wore down that Georgia defense. And for Georgia, you could say what went wrong for Georgia. Let's get into that. One, Stetson Bennett did not have his best game, and 29 for 48, 340, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. But it was very clear, even with the 340 yards, that Stetson Bennett cannot be the focal point of this offense. And Alabama did a great job of taking away the run game throughout the game. Now, early Georgia was moving the football on the ground, but Alabama said, listen, Stetson Bennett is going to have to beat us, and he couldn't. There were some times where he missed on some very, very important throws, especially in the red zone. Georgia skipped on 2 field goals, threw an interception on later that drive on the first one, and then the second one ended up coming away with no points on that drive. But Stetson Bennett's 2 picks, man, he got caught looking in the wrong spot, and Alabama made him pay, including a huge pick 6 that really and truly put the game away. But you could tell Stetson Bennett's legs were solid. Listen, he did great getting outside the pocket, had that 14-yard run was great. But for me, you need more at the quarterback spot if you're going to beat Alabama. And Stetson Bennett, he had some inaccuracies. His decision-making at times was questionable, and you could just tell he wasn't able to push the ball down the field like he needed to. And also, the Georgia run game hurt Georgia so bad today, guys. Only 109 yards rushing. That's less than 3.5 yards per carry. but nobody on Georgia's team had over 40 yards rushing. James Cook led the team in rushing, 38 yards rushing on 11 carries. McIntosh had 32 yards on 4, Zamir White 27 on 7, and they could not get anything established up front. And Alabama's D-line, Will Anderson, Fadarius Mathis, Dallas Turner, all these guys deserve a lot of credit for their performance this weekend for the Crimson Tide. And also the linebackers played huge for Alabama this weekend with Christian Harris and Henry Toto at those linebacker spots, playing great sideline to sideline football and not missing open field tackles when they got their hands on those running backs. So what went wrong for Georgia is that their defense didn't show up in the front seven. Their secondary had multiple coverage busts. And on top of that, their number one thing on offense they had to do was run the football, and they could not do it against this Bama front seven. That put way too much pressure on Stetson Bennett. Listen, he's had a great season. The story is great. A walk-on, got the starting job at Georgia, led them to the SEC championship, but it's clear over the past 2 years that Georgia's going to need more at the quarterback spot to win these big games over in Alabama and go and win a national title. Now, I'm very interested to see whether Georgia moves forward with Stetson Bennett or they use these next few weeks to get JT Daniels healthy for the college football playoff. But for Georgia, man, the one guy I do want to give a shout out to is Brock Bowers. This kid is going to be a problem in Athens, man. 10 catches, 139, and a touchdown. Every single time Stetson Bennett needed to make a throw, he looked for Brock Bowers' way, and Brock Bowers made some outstanding catches in very tight coverage. But outside of Bowers, man, there needs to be another wide receiver to step up. Pickens coming off an injury, 2 catches this game. Burton had 3. Ladd McConkey had 2. James Cook had 4 out of the backfield. But they needed more from their wide receiving core this weekend, and I don't think they gave Stetson Bennett the help he needed outside of Bowers, but you have to have more than just one guy you just feed the ball to against this Alabama defense. And later in the game, they started looking Bowers' way, and when they shifted that coverage toward Bowers, that really affected Stetson Bennett and what he was able to do with the football. But looking at this game, Bryce Young clinch the Heisman? And in my opinion, he absolutely did, guys. 421 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Also had a rushing touchdown and 40 yards rushing on only 3 carries. Bryce Young, give him his Heisman. Listen, and I think even the CBS broadcast said this on the telecast that they should just have the Heisman ceremony in Atlanta. They should be giving Alabama the SEC championship trophy and giving Bryce Young the Heisman Trophy. And with how this game started, with Georgia jumping out to a strong lead, for Bryce Young to lead them back like he did and consistently look as confident as he has all season long says a lot about Alabama, man. 7 for 14 on third downs, 50%, over 536 total yards, including his 421 passing, and 0 turnovers as a team, man. This offense is consistent. They did not turn the ball over. Bryce Young was explosive, and Bryce Young, Jameson Williams might be the deadliest connection in college football right now. Jameson Williams could take a 10-yard route and take it 60 for a touchdown, and Bryce Young knows where he can look for him. And also, let's give him props for spreading the ball out a bit. Williams with 7 catches, Mechie with 6, Slade Bolden had 5, Billingsley had 2, Trayshawn Holden had 2, hit Latu on one of the plays. He can spread the ball around, and multiple wide receivers kept constantly stepping up and making plays. And Bryce Young's accuracy and efficiency is his number one skill set. And of course, that pocket presence is that of a senior with years of college football experience. And for a freshman in his first year to have that type of pocket presence and command of an offense says so much about Bryce Young's development as a player. And looking at this game, that was really the biggest difference between Georgia and Alabama was the quarterback battle. And for me, I think if Georgia gets a rematch, which they might in the college football playoff, if Georgia gets a rematch, they're going to have to find something else at quarterback because I don't know if Stetson Bennett can get it done through the air. And on top of that, man, let's give Alabama's run game a little bit of credit, man. Rushed for over 100 yards on this Georgia front seven that gave nobody any rushing room. It took a lot, but they kept feeding it to Robinson, and Trey Sanders had some solid runs. Even though it wasn't consistent, they never abandoned the run game. And so you've got to give them a lot of credit for getting something done on the ground as well and giving Bryce Young a little bit of help in terms of making that Georgia defense honest. But when you look at this game overall, man, I didn't want to make these episodes too long, just recap it quickly. you got to give Alabama a lot of credit, man. Listen, like I said at the start of the episode, everybody said this Georgia team was damn near unbeatable, that the defense was going to give Bama problems. You look at what happened coming off the Auburn game last week, the LSU game 3 weeks ago. Everybody said Alabama's offensive line was going to get picked apart, and about all indications it was going to. But for some reason, man, this Alabama offensive line finally gelled together. And if Alabama's O-line can continue to gel and Bryce Young can continue to have the confidence he's shown over the past few weeks, Alabama is going to be an extremely, extremely tough team to beat. And right now, you can make a great argument that they should be the favorites entering the college football playoff in just a few weeks. So Alabama makes a huge statement. Nick Saban continues his pure dominance over Georgia as a head coach, man. Georgia has not beaten Alabama since Nick Saban's first year in 2007, and Kirby Smart has yet to get over the hump of beating the Crimson Tide. But Georgia has to figure out something to do. If they get a rematch, they're going to have to run the football, and they're going to have to find a bit more consistent effort at the quarterback spot, along with not turning the ball over. This Bama defense, if you give them a chance to get some turnovers, they're taking it to the house most of the time. They have their athletes on the back end are top notch. But for me, the biggest two takeaways is one, Bryce Young had his Heisman moment, man. He had an outstanding game against arguably the best defense in college football. Two, Jameson Williams is a problem at the wide receiver spot. I don't think people really give him enough credit for what he's been doing in this Alabama offense, guys. But listen, it was a great day of football, man. But this one was the king of them all, man. Alabama taking the SEC title 41-24 over the Georgia Bulldogs. What's next? Alabama is the number one seed in the college football playoff as they take on Cincinnati in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas, while Georgia falls to number 3. Will take on Michigan in Miami in the Orange Bowl. So Georgia and Alabama will have a shot potentially to have another national championship rematch this year in Indianapolis in the 2022 College Football National Championship. So guys, if you're new, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the video, share it if you will, and also comment your takeaways of this game. What were your biggest takeaways from Alabama's domination down the stretch of Georgia, and what are your takeaways of what went wrong for Georgia, man? Give me your takeaways of the game, what your thoughts were, and what your college football playoff predictions for these two teams are, guys. But listen, turn on your post notifications. More conference championship recaps coming later today. But until next time, guys, the Blue Bloods are out.